December 4th, 2023. This is the Kearney Board of Aldermen meeting. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you to our three scouts, Bennett, Evan, and Joshua. Thank you so much for being here, opening the meeting for us, and leading us in the pledge. Can we give them a hand, please? All right, have you had a chance to take roll this evening?
Yes, everyone is present, Mayor, and you have a quorum.
We have no public hearings this evening. We'll move on to personal appearances. We have Stacy Ratcher, the Executive Director of the Kearney Chamber of Commerce, to discuss the hotel and motel sales tax. Stacy?
Thank you, Mayor and Aldermen, city staff, and guests. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. I am here tonight to ask you to approve putting a transient guest tax on the ballot for April 2024. Right. Because of the generous ARPA funds received from the city of Kearney, the Chamber of Commerce initiated the Tourism Committee, opened the Visit Kearney Welcome Center, and created a foundation for its ongoing work. The foundation will allow us to fundraise and receive grants. Most of the Tourism Committee members are directors of the foundation as well, two of which also sit on the new Clay County Tourism Committee, Sean Barber and Jerry Spencer. The foundation was granted a 501c3 status in June of 2023 with the mission to promote and celebrate the heritage and experience of Kearney, Missouri. I have been retained as the executive director of the foundation. Our user stats continue to grow with the exception of the website. Website traffic is actually down 42% due to the end of our search engine optimization, search engine marketing matching grant through the Missouri Division of Tourism. We are hoping to reestablish that grant and get those numbers back up in the next year. Our Facebook numbers are coming up on 1,000 after only 1.5 years, as compared to our Shop Local Kearney page, which is just now at 1,000 followers after 4 years. The mobile app numbers continue to rise. It jumped by 20 downloads just this weekend alone. Top 5 locations for downloads are, of course, Kearney, Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, Denver, and Chicago. Other points of interest include Jefferson City, Springfield, St. Louis, Nashville, New York, Dallas, Orlando, Omaha, and Minneapolis. Over the course of 1.5 years, we completed use of the city ARPA grant and the county ARPA grant. Here are just a few of the things we accomplished through print, digital, and other marketing mediums. But we still have so much more to do. ARPA tourism funding was at $156,935. 22% of that spending came from the city of Kearney, 19% from Clay County, 14% from the Chamber of Commerce, and 45% made up staff and payroll. Now, we just need to locate sustainable funding to continue and build upon these tourism efforts. During this tourism journey, Ryan, it has been fascinating to discover how much tourism is already happening in and around Kearney. From the Jesse James Farm to the Fun Farm, from local businesses to our hotels. So why not capitalize on it? According to data compiled by Visit KC, the NFL draft resulted in a total economic impact of over $164 million for Kansas City. Taylor Swift's concerts had a direct economic impact of more than 46 million for the KC metro area. If you think those numbers are impressive, the World Cup is expected to bring 652 million in direct event impact, and they're projecting 35 million in Kansas City, Missouri taxes. Kansas City is now on the world stage, which has had and will continue to have a direct impact here in Kearney. Did you know during the draft and Tay-Tay's concerts, our hotels were sold out? With more major concerts and sporting events planned in the future, Kearney is in an unprecedented position to capitalize on tourism. Your investment in tourism through a transient guest tax will yield a significant return for the community, driving local tax revenue and economic development for a positive economic impact, including job creation, increased revenue, tax revenue, and small business support. I am here tonight on behalf of the foundation to secure sustainable funding to continue and build upon our tourism efforts. The Kearney Chamber Foundation is asking you to approve putting a transient guest tax on the ballot for April 2024 at 5% per occupied room per night. According to state statute, proceeds of such a tax shall be used solely for funding the promotion of tourism. We have chosen the April ballot due to the effective date, which is the first day of the second calendar quarter following the calendar quarter in which the election was held. In other words, I think October. Also, according to state statute, ballot language shall be in substantially this form. Shall the city of Kearney, Missouri impose a tax on the charges for all sleeping rooms paid by the transient guests of hotels and motels situated in Kearney, Missouri at a rate of 5% for the sole purpose of promoting tourism? I want to be clear for everyone in the room and anyone listening, this is not a tax on our residents, but purely on transient guests. Based on the total funds spent on tourism already, the Kearney Chamber Foundation is proposing an 80-20 split of the projected tax revenue. The figures shown are based on our lowest projections from information provided by our 5 local hotels. So you can see in the blue, at 50% occupancy, what the tax revenue would be at 2%, 3%, 4%, and 5%. Keep in mind, our hotels were sold out each weekend this summer at 100% occupancy. Other Missouri cities and counties who have proposed and/or implemented a transient guest tax include this quick Google search, resulted in these locations, but keep in mind, this is not a complete list, but neither are we alone. These tax funds would allow the foundation to continue to build upon the tourism efforts we already started, but with dedicated staff and an unlimited ability to maximize on marketing opportunities. Tourism destination marketing organizations and other tourism organizations often receive matching funds for marketing based on the number of tourists who visit a destination or attraction, such as a special event. In addition, to determine the economic impacts of tourism and tourist events in a region, economists must use certain criteria to define a tourist who is injecting new money into the local economy. Traditionally, the word tourist has been defined using a parameter such as distance traveled or time spent away from one's home. However, definitions of tourists have changed over time, and there are now many criteria to choose from, such as residence, purpose of travel, length of stay, and distance traveled. These popular definitions of a tourist based on travel distance and length of stay include, number 1, one who travels away from home for a distance of at least 50 miles one way, whether he stays overnight or returns the same day. Number 2, anyone traveling more than 100 miles. And number 3, a person who takes a trip 50 miles or more away from home one way that includes one night or more away from home. Again, transient guest tax funds must be used solely for the purpose of promoting tourism. Thank you for your time tonight. I hope you will approve putting a transient guest tax on the ballot for April 2024 at 5%. I've shared with you all of the individuals who are on our foundation board and tourism development committee. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board on the request?
As liaison, I think this is truly a win-win for our community and for the foundation. I think the opportunities it will allow us are many.
No, I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Yep. I think so. This is a question directed to staff. I wish we had our attorney here this evening, but so we're looking at the revised statute 67.1 thousand. Which subsection there would Kearney be under? Because I think it says here that our total beds are 245. I guess I want to make sure that we have, under the statute that a class 4 city has the authority to do this. Do you know what subsection?
I believe
Stacey?
we do, but that is a good question, but I believe we do.
Okay.
Because some of these cities that we have mentioned are within our size range. I do not know about class though, so that's.
Stacy, do you know?
I
May not
don't
know off the top of
Okay.
her head.
I can share with you what I printed off.
They say any county, which that wouldn't be us, any city which is the county seat of any county, which is not us, or which now or hereafter has a population of more than 3,500 inhabitants, and which has heretofore been authorized by the General Assembly. So then it reads, any city or county with more than 350 hotel and motel rooms within the boundaries of such city or county. That wouldn't be us. Any other city which has a population of more than 18,000 and less than 45,000. And then down,
There are over
so many.
37 different,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I
Definitions.
just want to make sure before we start looking at something for the board to put to a vote and look at ballot language and stuff, that we just make sure that legally under this revised Missouri statute that we have the authority to do this is all. I just want to make sure our
Right.
ducks are in a row.
absolutely.
can you leave those with us?
Sure.
we can make a copy. That
No,
way-
you can have those. I've got it.
Okay.
Could staff look at that, and I would like
Yeah.
to report at our next meeting.
I honestly think that a couple of these we fall under, so it should be.
Yeah, let's find out if we can do it.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the consent agenda. Are there any items of discussion or questions on the consent agenda this evening? Seeing none, if we can entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve as presented.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes. And then I think, was there a correction on one of those items? I'm sorry.
It wasn't with the actual item itself, it was just the description under the item.
Okay.
I copied and pasted from the description from above and forgot to change it, so.
Okay. We'll move on to ordinances. The first item this evening is a motion approving bill number 41, 2023, presented by Eric Marshall, our park director, an ordinance calling an election in the city of Kearney, Missouri.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to introduce our consultant from Water's Edge Aquatics, Lauren Osborne. She's going to give a presentation to the board regarding the Kearney Rec Center, proposed Kearney Rec Center with indoor aquatics, and how we got to the point that we are at the present moment. So if I may, Lauren, could I have you come up to the podium, please?
Welcome, Lauren. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Alderman, Board of Aldermen, staff, community members. I really appreciate being here tonight. This has been a long time coming. As Eric mentioned, tonight is really to go over how did we get to some of the images you see in this room today, and then answer some questions that you all may have and have some discussion. So like Eric said, my name is Lauren Osborne. I'm with Water's Edge Aquatic Design. We're one of the consultants on this study. In addition to us, we also have SFS Architecture and Vireo. They were also part of the team. So although they are not here presenting tonight, I want to give them the kudos that they are owed. Go ahead. So for tonight, I want to focus on really three key items. One is going to be a summary of the project background. Where did we start, right, and what was the intent? I'd like to go over the public input, a summary of that. It was a critical component of this study, and then we'll go over the final option that we landed on and what that includes, and maybe some of the key details you may be interested in. Okay. So when we initially started this process, about, 13, 14 months ago, I believe we started back in October of 2022, the consultant team, staff, and park board really set out to understand what are the needs of the Kearney community for aquatics, and what levels of support exist within the community for aquatics. And one of the key objectives throughout this process has been to develop an aquatics plan that not only serves the community today, now, but could also serve the community into the future. At the time, there were several key big questions that we set out to answer. The first was, is there a need for aquatics? And if so, what kind? And to what level? What types of amenities may be of interest? That was the first big question. Second question that was significant to us is, where are the priorities and needs for outdoor and indoor swimming? At the time, we were thinking we may not be able to develop both, so where is the true priority within the community? And the third big question was, what's it going to cost to do this? And when we get to that final option, what is the ongoing operating projection for that facility? Because we all know it takes dollars to construct and build something, and it takes dollars to keep something going. So on both fronts, it was important for us to understand where are we going to fall at the end of the day. Because public input was really a cornerstone behind this project, I want to take a little bit of time. In a moment, I forgot one thing. Again, in the beginning, we knew what the location was going to be for a proposed facility or potential facility. And that is going to be on the southwest corner of 19th Street and South of Jefferson. It's highlighted in red above. So when we kicked this project off, and as we went through discussions, and as we explored, site development, this was the location that we were using to explore that. Thank you. So like I previously said, as I skipped ahead, public input was a cornerstone of this process. So I do want to take a moment to review the methods that we used to collect information, but then also what we learned throughout the process. Since April of 2023, there has been an online project website available. It educates the community about the project. It also is a central resource for updates for the project and how community members could submit feedback. That could be through public meetings, which were posted on the website, and also online surveys, which were available through the website. Additionally, we held multiple stakeholder meetings with the Greenfield subdivisions, the senior lunch bunch. That was a great meeting. The Kearney School District swim and dive team, Purple Wave swim team, and then ongoing meetings with the Parks and Rec Board. Now, when we were talking about input with the general public, I'm going to break this down a little bit in between two different rounds. And I'm doing that because it helps tell the story of how we got here today. If you go look at previous documents and where we started, this was an aquatic study. We were looking at aquatics initially. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page on how we got, again, to some of the images that you see throughout the room today. So in the first round of public input, we held a public meeting. It was at the high school in later April of 2023. And we also had an online survey that was available late April through late May for just over a month. And that was an online survey. You received almost 1,500 responses on that survey. It's the second highest survey our company has seen. So you had tremendous input on your survey. It's a tremendous number for your population size. It well exceeded what we projected on the survey. Now, I want to make sure that we all understand, as we move forward, the details behind the survey results, we're focusing on the 84% of that, just under 1,500, that marked themselves as being Kearney residents. So as we're digesting this data, I just want to be clear, we're looking at the responses coming from those who indicated they're a resident of the city of Kearney. Go ahead. So at this time, when we initially were speaking with the general public, we were looking at aquatic options, and there were 4 primary options we were talking with the community about and exploring. The first option was a comprehensive outdoor aquatic center, including kids spaces, lap spaces, lazy river, water slides, the whole shebang. That was option 1. Option 2 was a modern indoor facility, including competition space, a kids area, and the therapy pool. The third option at this time was a slightly smaller outdoor facility without the competition component that you see in option 1, and a program-focused indoor facility that was meant to house aqua fitness, swimming lessons, and a variety of programs, not necessarily competition swim, because that indoor pool was smaller in option number 3. Option number 4 is a comprehensive outdoor and an indoor pool. So think options 1 and 2 combined. That was option number 4. And I break this down a little bit because as I talk through the survey, I'm going to be reporting to you how your community responded to these particular scenarios. So when we were talking with the general public in this survey at the time, we wanted to know in general, what's your level of support for this type of project? 78% in the survey indicated they do support the development of a swimming facility. And at the time, this was our core, this was the foundation, this was really the question that we used to stand on and feel good on to develop options moving forward. Within the survey, we wanted to know, what are your top priorities for amenities and features? And we use this in a variety of ways. We use it to not only develop concepts, but we use it to prioritize amenities. There's many, many different elements that can go within any recreational facility. We have to narrow down, right? So I'm going to say the top 5, even though it says 4 here, the top 5 amenities that your community came back saying that were of interest include these, and these are in order. A zero depth entry. Now the conversation behind that goes towards kids, but it also goes towards accessibility for all users, right? So I just want to be clear that zero depth means everyone, not just kids. Number 2 is warm water for therapy use. Number 3 is deep water, and we define that as 5 feet or deeper. But everyone knows when we say deep water, people are thinking 12 feet with a diving board, right? That's what most people think. Deep water was number 3, and tied at number 4 was kids features, right, for little ones, and 25-yard lap lanes. They came in the same. So at this time, we were able to use this data to say, okay, if nothing else, we need to try to get these amenities into whatever facility is going to be coming in the future. In addition to that, like I previously said, we were needing to gauge what is the level of priority for outdoor and indoor swimming. So what you're seeing up on the screen or in your packets in front of you, we asked the question, how important is it for you to have access to one of these types of facilities, and what's most important to you? In this particular question, it came out that outdoor and indoor swimming equally were important to the respondents. Second to that, and just following just a hair behind it, is indoor swimming. Now, again, I want to comment that outdoor swimming, indoor swimming, and outdoor and indoor together, those were the three options. And what we heard was they're equal. I'd like to use them equally, and that was the top ranked answer. That was the first little cue that there is a level of importance to some degree in both of those areas. And you're going to see this pop up again here in just a little bit. Go ahead. So of the four options that I briefly explained to you, that option number 4 was ranked highest amongst the highest percentage of respondents. And that again is the comprehensive outdoor and modest indoor pool. And in that scenario, that was going to be the kid spaces outside, the water slides outside, the fun spaces outside, and competition space, therapy space inside. That's what option number 4 was. 43% of respondents ranked that as the highest ranked option that they had to rank on, and that was they most supported. Again, you're going to see this pop up again. This heavily informed what you're going to see in round 2. Again, just like today and up until, I'm sure, April of 2024, it was important to us at this time to understand what's the level of support for funding. Right? We know that the community needs to accept this project and vote to fund this. So we asked the question at this time, how supportive of you of approving the city to incur debt for this project? How supportive are you? 69% at the time said they're supportive or very supportive of the city incurring debt to develop a new swimming facility in Kearney. Now, we all know when you go through surveying and public input, individual questions, those are important, but it's also important to read the narrative behind comments that are submitted. That's verbal comments coming through public meetings. It's verbal comments coming through one-off conversations, and it's the written comments coming through surveys. So I found it important to communicate to you some of those additional elements that you wouldn't necessarily just look at one question and glean information from. You have to dig into the comments that were submitted. So I just want to review those. There is both support and non-support for this project. We heard it in the survey, we heard it in the public meetings, and we heard it in ongoing conversations. When speaking about outdoor aquatics, because again, we were discussing that at this time, some community members were coming back saying, we don't need a water park. We're interested in a more simple, basic, outdoor pool that could serve Kearney residents. And many times that was tied to the old Kearney pool that used to be here. And there was some reminiscing going on about the facility that used to be here in town. Another comment is that the project, regardless of what it is, should include indoor swimming. That was a very common theme throughout the entire process. Indoor swimming is important. And that came back for swim team, aqua fitness, swimming lessons, all the programs that you could possibly think were coming back as important. Starting at this time, at the first public meeting and there on out, multiple comments were being submitted that there is a need and desire for a community center, fitness opportunities, the ability to have a track, weight equipment, or a combination of those types of comments. So I summed it up in one bullet point saying, interest in a community center and fitness opportunities. And I'm going to come back to that point here in a minute. Multiple comments were also submitted that phasing is okay on this project. If we can't afford it all now, let's plan ahead. Let's do this in steps as we can afford the various amenities and options that are out there. There's a desire to serve kids through seniors, right? The demographics throughout the ages, a multi-generational facility. That was coming back over and over again. We need to be able to serve everyone to some capacity. Kearney residents should be able to participate at a reduced cost or fee. Again, that's a very common response that we received. And if you look through the final report, you're going to see that as a theme come out over and over. Fees and costs to use, that's a concern. And we need to be cognizant of what it's going to take in order for someone to utilize the facility. And what I mean by what it's going to take, I mean financially, what it's going to take for someone to utilize the facility. And then finally, there is some non-support for this project, and one of the common reasons, or one of the common comments that were coming back in relation to that is users should pay for the facility, and I don't want to pay for a facility that I will not utilize. I comment on that because there is a portion that are saying that, and I thought it was fair that you knew. I want to come back to the interest in a community center and fitness opportunities. Although this is one bullet point, I can't say or emphasize enough that this was a very common theme in all the different methods that we were soliciting input. And I commented because you're going to see this pop up in public engagement round 2. Okay? Move forward. So as we learned all of that throughout, public input round 1, we stepped back. We said, okay, we're hearing some themes that are above and beyond just aquatics. We need to explore those ideas, right? And we have aquatic options, but we have not asked the community about non-aquatic options. Now is the time to ask about that, because when we went through that first round, there was some non-supporters coming out saying, I'm never going to vote yes to this. So we wanted to provide an option that kind of got at what they were communicating to us, and that's year-round facility, multi-generational use. We can expand programming than what we can currently offer. So in round number 2, we held another public meeting in late July, and we held a second online survey, July through August. You can see the dates there. You had slightly less responses on the survey here at just over 1,000 total, and 78% of that are Kearney residents. And once again, all the data that I'm about to show you is coming from those who responded as Kearney residents. At this time, we had 2 final options we were soliciting input on. We knew outdoor and indoor aquatics was of interest. It was of strong interest. Of all the options we had previously talked about, this was the #1 ranked option. So in this particular option, there's a 6-lane short course competition pool located within the natatorium, which is an indoor pool, and a therapy pool. On the outside of this, you can see it up just the top of the building there, is a shallow water leisure pool, 0 depth, down to about 3.5, 4 feet of water with a lazy river, water slides, kids play structure, all the playthings outside. In this option, the thinking was leisure and family use, that is outside, heavy summer users, programs, competition, therapy use, that's going to go indoors. That's what we heard. When the community was talking to us, they want programs indoors, and at the time, family, leisure, fun, excitement going on outside. So that was the first option that we presented to the general public. I did forget to mention in that first option in aquatics, we did not forget that rec center was attractive and was of interest. So we did plan that, can you go back one? I apologize. We did plan on the site for future expansion for a rec center just to the right of what you see up there. So again, when we are laying out the site here, we're not closing the door in the future to any option. We're planning ahead now spatially. Thank you, Ryan. The second option is a recreation center with indoor aquatics. I'm going to break this down here in just a little bit. But in this option, we have the same competition pool and a therapy pool in the natatorium. And then on the recreation side, it includes gymnasiums, track, fitness. I'm going to call it a studio, so a fitness studio, and all the support spaces that go into offering all those various amenities. Just like in option 1, in this option, we did not shut the door to outdoor aquatics in the future. So again, you can see here and the site plan that the thinking is outdoor aquatics could expand, I'm going to call it to the north, it's not quite to the north, but expand on top of the building, as you can see there in the site layout. So we took these options to the general public, again, through the survey, through the public meeting, and through conversations. This round of input was not quite as clear as the first round. The responses were much closer together, and there's not necessarily a clear, quote, winner like we were hoping for. But I want to break it down a little bit. Again, we'll talk about how we got where we got. So between these two options, option 2, the recreation center with indoor aquatics, was just slightly ranked higher than the outdoor aquatics by less than 2%. It was very close in this particular option when respondents were ranking which of these options meets the needs of your household best and that you support most. Between these two options, we wanted to know which option would your household utilize most frequently. Utilization equals revenue. Utilization equals a higher cost recovery. We want people through the door. And so to hear that 46% would utilize option 2, the rec center with indoor aquatics most, that was of interest. That's in comparison to 40% saying that option 1, the aquatic center, meets needs best. So again, it's still relatively close, but that option 2 slightly outranks that option 1. Again, just like we've talked about, support for funding was at the top of our minds the entire process. So we asked several questions related to that. And one of the first one was, how supportive are you of the city incurring debt to specifically fund the facility being evaluated? And those two options were the aquatic center and the rec center with aquatics. 49% are ranking option 2 as they support or very much support that particular option, just a few percentage points higher than option 1. So again, it's not a clear and distinct winner, but there's a slight edge towards that option 2. It is of note, however, that 38% are indicated that they do not support or they're not supportive of that option 1. That's versus 33% of option 2. So again, it's relatively similar there, but more people are saying, I do not support option 1 at 38% versus 33 at option 2. Okay. As we went through the process, we really wanted to be extra clear that if these bond measures were to pass, particularly the GO bond, that is directly correlated with the property tax levy. As we went through round number 1, we made it very clear, because when you hear GO bond, there can be a disconnect between, well, yes, I like that, but how does that impact me? So at the very beginning, we provided information about how the GO bond, if passed, could impact a household. So we asked, it's a very similar question, but we asked it in a little bit different way. We directly correlated the passing of the GO bond to what it would mean on the assessed value of their property. I'm not going to read the entire question, it gets wordy, but basically, do they support paying $0.52 per $100 of assessed value? And in the survey, we had a graph available that they could walk through and see exactly, based on what their assessed value is, what they may pay on a daily, I think it was weekly, monthly, yearly, or something like that basis, right? So they could really follow the math and in an educated manner, answer this question. So for those who are, I'm sorry, for voting yes or supportive of voting yes, 33% are saying, I would vote yes for option 1. This is the first time that option 1 popped up slightly ahead of option 2, which is a little bit interesting. Just below that is option 2. But again, when you go down and you look at that vote against column, 39% are saying they will vote against option 1, the aquatic center, 35% saying they will vote against option 2. Now, I want to keep in mind and put this into perspective. There's folks in this data that you can see that might vote in favor of or not sure. Think of those people as needing to see, how much is it going to cost me? I know that it's important to me. Again, how much is it, what does this mean for me on an annual basis, monthly basis? And that's why I mentioned earlier that the cost to utilize the facility is important to this community. So although it's easy to say, option 1 outranked here and in these two categories, I don't want to forget about the folks that what it's going to take to get in is really important to them. So again, in this particular question, we would still consider option 2 slightly outranking because that vote against number is slightly higher, and you have a slightly higher number or percentage of folks living in that maybe category in this particular question. So after all is said and done, working with staff, working with your community, working with the Parks and Tree Board, the final option developed and the final option coming forward to the Board of Aldermen today is the Recreation Center with indoor aquatics. I want to break that down because I skimmed over it in the previous section, but I want to make sure that we all understand what is included within a facility like this. I'm going to break it down, dry side and pool side. I found that's a little bit easier to digest that way. So on the dry side, it includes one high school regulation size basketball court, running cross-directional to that, meaning perpendicular to it would be 2 middle school courts. So depending on how you wanted to play, you have various options there. There's also options in that gymnasium to have volleyball striped if you wanted, pickleball striped if you wanted, and various other opportunities for utilizing that gymnasium. Included in this is an elevated walking track. It's 1/15 of a mile, meaning it would take 15 laps to walk 1 mile, and it is a 3-lane track surrounding the gymnasium. It is elevated, meaning it is not on the gymnasium floor, it sits above it. So there is not conflict between what is going on in the gymnasium and what is going on the track. Also included is a fitness floor, just over 3,700 square feet for fitness. Think cardio and weight equipment, so free weights, right? Your treadmills, that type of equipment. And could serve, give or take, about 75 people on the floor. The group exercise studio is about 1,600 square feet. It could serve about 26 people, depending on the class type, for classes like yoga, Zumba, right? Those instructor-led type classes. So that's what the group exercise studio is. On the pool side, there is a competition pool. It's 6-lane, 25-yard competition pool with 2 diving boards at the end of it that would serve the Kearney swim team and dive team within that space. Also included is a shallow water leisure area. Located right behind Kathy here is a good image of the swimming pool if you want to take a look at that. So what you're seeing here is that shallow water leisure area attached to the competition pool with several kids amenities and an ADA ramp included within that. Within this space also is starting blocks that will be needed for your competition team and a therapy pool. You can see it more in the 3D images over here to my right, but the therapy pool is a warm water space with a bench and jets and an ADA staircase in there for whether it's rehab, therapy use, free use, whatever, swimming lessons, whatever the case is, but it's a warmer body of water than the competition leisure pool. The depths of this body of water would range from 0 feet to 12 feet at its deepest. Just to give you an overview of the site that we talked about, up on the screen now is the parking and building area for this particular option on this site. Included within this is also stormwater detention. We do anticipate that we're going to need some detention on the site to slow down that water migration that would be headed over to the east before it hits the system. So that's what you're seeing in that green kind of bottom right corner there on the site. You can progress. We're going to break this down with some 3D images here in just a moment. This is just the floor plan for the facility, a little bit more up close than the previous site plan. You can progress. So I want to walk you through this option. These are also printed off again over to my right after the meeting. If you'd like to take a look, please feel free, but I'm going to kind of walk you through, and I'm going to start with number 1. So as you exit your vehicle in the parking lot, or you walk up to the facility, you would enter number 2. That is the kind of foyer entry area where guests would check in and guests could hang out. There could be tables there, a lobby space. Directly ahead of that, number 3, that is a party room that could be used for birthday parties, reunions, classes. You think of it, it could probably go in that room. If you head to the left, down number 6, that is the universal restroom and the men's and women's locker room space. You would go through these spaces to enter the natatorium. But I want to comment that within this plan, we do have both gendered restrooms and non-gendered restrooms. In facilities like this, it is typically anticipated and expected that there's a place for families to go, little kids can go with their parents, get changed before and after swimming lessons and leave together, that type of thing, versus having to split between men's and women's locker rooms. So I just wanted to comment that there are several universal restrooms within this space. Heading over to number 7, that's the natatorium with the competition pool, the leisure pool, and the therapy pool. I did forget to mention that within the pool, with the swim and dive team potentially having utilization out of this facility and potentially having swim and dive meets out of this facility, we did incorporate spectator seating so that those spectators, guests, can watch the meets and have space to go during the meets. I apologize, I forgot to mention that. If we head back through number 6, back through number 2, and on the far right is number 5. That's the gymnasium with the high school court and the 2 cross-directional middle school courts. Number 4 is more than just admissions. This facility will require a significant number of staff. So it does include office space, administrative space, and space for staff to do their jobs out of the public's view. So there is some administrative space included within number 4, above and beyond just a check-in desk for the front desk staff. Progress. So going up, you can either access the second floor through a set of stairs or through an elevator. And on that second floor is number 5, the elevated walking track. You can see that going around the gymnasium. You can also see number 2, that is the fitness floor. So again, where the cardio and weight equipment would be. And number 3 is where that fitness studio would be for group classrooms. We also included some space for personnel, number 1, personnel up on that floor. Typically on a fitness floor, you will need some support to educate on the equipment, help with problems, answer questions, set up, if you were to do personal training, set up personal training, that type of activity. And then number 4 is just another little seating or lobby space. Once a group is done doing their, 1 to 2 miles on the track, they can sit down and have that chit chat up there on the fitness floor. Like I mentioned, we did want to go ahead and just throw in an example image of the indoor swimming pool. That's what this image is up on the screen. So what are some of the possible programs within a facility like this? They're fairly endless, but these are some possible programs to get started. So let's start on the dry side. So in the gymnasium, you can have open gym, basketball, and any other gymnasium activity that you can think of. That could be a rental, that could be the high school coming in practicing, it could be 10-year-olds coming in to practice on the rec team. Whatever the case is going to be, if you can think of it going into a gymnasium, that's what could go in here. But we know that open gym and basketball will be really heavy users of the gymnasium. You can do walking and running on the track. You can have little ones take their tricycles up on the track and do their miles, whatever you want to do. Most often it's going to be walking and running for teens and adults up there on the track. But again, just like the gym, if you can think of it, it probably can happen on the track. You could even do a kids triathlon in this facility. On the fitness floor, we would anticipate self-guided use for the most part, but included could be private training. So for someone like me, I have no idea how to use 80% of the equipment. I need someone to help me. I can pay someone to help teach me, how can I utilize this, right? That best fits me. That's what private training is about. And you can do that on the equipment or you could do that in the studio. We do anticipate structured fitness classes that are instructor-led, meaning this class starts at Monday at 9 a.m. and Wednesday 9 a.m., Friday 9 a.m., that type of activity going on in the studio. This facility, it could be home to rentals and parties. That could be birthday parties, that could be quinceañeras, it could be the high school seniors who want to rent the facility out for their senior night. So again, there's opportunity here above and beyond just open regular use. And then camps and kids activities. When you have, school is out and you may potentially want or need some childcare within the community, this type of facility is something that may be able to accommodate that. Or during spring break, etc. So this is set up for camp, it could be set up for camps and kids. On the pool side, we anticipate lap swimming. So again, that would be me just coming in Monday at 8 a.m. and I want to do some lap swimming. I can do that on my own. Swim and dive team activities, that could be by way of practice and meets. Leisure and family swim time. So again, Ryan and his family, they get out of work, out of school on Friday. They want to go swim after after they eat dinner, they can go do that on their own. Swim and dive lessons, we anticipate to be a very large program here in Kearney, and that would be for kids through adults in the space. Warm water use could include, like I mentioned previously, could include swimming lessons for little kids. They will love that water. You will sell those out, I can guarantee that. It could be for adult and senior use. Eric and his knee need a little bit warmer water. He needs to go work it out. That therapy pool is going to be a great place to go do that. Those are a few activities. And again, they could be structured or unstructured in the warm water. And then just like on the dry side, structured fitness classes here. You think aqua Zumba. You could do deep water aqua fitness here, regular fitness classes, water walking out of this class. Lots of opportunities for fitness classes in water, and they are just as popular as the dry side fitness. So let's go over operational range projections real quick. So we worked with Ballard King. It's another consultant. They specialize in recreation center and recreation operational projections and business planning. So we did bring them onto the team to study this rec center and what might it take revenue and expenditure wise to keep this facility running. So the revenue is anticipated to be just over 1.4 million in annual revenue. Expenses, just over 1.9 million in annual expenses. I do want to comment that within this number, we do include, you can see here, an annual replacement fund. With a facility like this, you will have to plan ahead for this piece of equipment goes down, this item breaks, we need to replace this thing here, we need to maintain this item. So we went ahead and included within that expenditure line item about $100,000 a year to take care of those types of items. The subsidy level is just over $440,000 annually, and you can see the cost recovery is just over 76% annually under this projection model. Within these models come some assumptions. So I want to walk through some of those assumptions. We'll go through hours and then we're going to go through fees. So hours of operation under this, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday, 7 to 7, and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7. We break fees down between membership fees and daily admission fees. Membership fees are typically on an annual basis. Daily fees are on a visit-by-visit basis. The way we broke this down is by annual category or fee category, and then resident and non-resident rates. Within this model here, we did look at rates of your surrounding community centers as a starting point or as a guide. However, that's not the smoking gun. We know that we have a subsidy level that we have to meet. And so although looking at competitors' rates was the starting point, we did have to work through these numbers to get down to a subsidy level that fell within the acceptable ranges. So you can see here we have youth, adult, adult plus one, family, senior, and senior plus one fee categories. This is a starting point. If the city were to, deviate from this, that's acceptable. But I do want to comment that any change in one category in revenue or expenditure changes the entire projection, okay? But that's okay. At this level, this is a high-level projection. As you move forward, you study this more in depth, you will dig into some of these details more and more and more to get down to the final operating business plan for this type of facility. So you can see here the youth category, resident rate at $225 annually and the non-resident rate at $300. The adult rate at $304 versus $405 for non-residents. The adult plus one is actually the adult rate with plus 25%. So it's not a doubled rate. It is adult plus 25%. So you can see there 380 versus 645, and that was done just on that resident rate, that 25%. The family rate is $600 for residents versus $800 for non. The senior rate is $255 annually versus $340 for non-residents, and the senior plus one is just under $319 annually versus the $490. At the very bottom, you'll see the total revenue projection for that category and the number of passes sold under this projection. So you can see here the projected resident revenue coming in at just over $444,000 for annual memberships. On the flip side, you have your daily admission. you have the opportunity to offer, or I'm sorry, the public has the opportunity to either purchase a membership or purchase a day pass to utilize the facility. We got a great question at the park board. Do you have to do either one of these to utilize the facility? And the answer is no. If you just want to take a swimming lesson class, or you just want to take that fitness class, there's opportunities for community members just to purchase that program activity versus having to purchase a membership or day pass. So I throw that out there because there was some thinking that not everyone is going to want to pay an annual membership to utilize this facility. So it's something to think about. You don't have to require a membership or daily admission for someone to utilize this thing. Here's another example. It's the middle of winter, your gymnasium's open, you open it up for toddler time. You have your little tricycles, your balls, little slides, tunnels, whatever you want to do. That gets put out into the gym. But me, I don't want to pay a membership to utilize that program 1 or 2 times. But what I could do is pay the fee to come in and use that program for just a few hours, the few times that I come in, if that makes any sense. So there's really 3 categories here: annual membership, daily admission, and programs. Those are the 3 ways that someone could come in and utilize the facility. So for daily admission, those under 2, you'll see here $0 for that. It's not common that you'll be charging for little ones to use a facility like this. Youth 2 to 17 years of age would be $6 for a resident and $12 for non-resident. An adult is $8 for resident, $16 for non, and then seniors 65 plus would be $6 and $12. And just like the previous slide, the revenue breakdown is provided there, down there at the bottom. So just a few general notes and we're almost done. Again, we had to make some concessions in order for us to get this into a subsidy level that was acceptable. The first is that the swimming pool would be closed from 1 to 4 p.m. during the school year. It is not often a busy time between 1 and 4 p.m. Any program that were to operate out of the swimming pool between 1 and 4, that program would have its own cost recovery goals. So if you want to have that aqua fitness program sometime between 1 and 4 p.m., the fees to utilize that program would include what it would take to get the lifeguard to oversee that particular program. So when we think about programs, they're a little bit different than general operation. Those are anticipated and expected to be at least 100% cost recovery, with some of those programs exceeding 100% and being able to contribute back to the general fund to pay for things like senior walking up on the track, if that makes sense. So again, although we say the pool is closed from 1 to 4 p.m., you can still have programs. It's just expected those programs would be 100% during that time. It was also decided that aquatics would be run in-house by in-house personnel. We did explore what would it cost, or what would the expenditure be if you were to hire a third-party manager or a third-party management company to take over aquatics and operate aquatics. We removed that expenditure out of the line item, again, to get down into the subsidy level that was acceptable. We also went to a group exercise class structure where it would be a contracted program. You offer contracted rec programs now. It's consistent with how the Parks Department is offering other recreational programs. And then, as you can see here, for those memberships, the resident rates are about 75% of the non-resident rates. If there's any opportunity, whether it be it now or in the future, to reduce those fees, that is something we would recommend. At this time, these are the projections, but as you learn more, as this project grows and as assumptions are made, looking at those resident fees is something to always come back to. But for right now, for where we are, resident rate is 75% of non-resident. So magnitude of cost, then we'll get to Q&A. So the magnitude of project development costs is up to $30 million, so between 29.7 and 30 million for development costs. We talked about the expenditures at 1.9 million annually, revenue at 1.46 million annually, with the subsidy of just over 440,000. It has been a common discussion amongst your park board, amongst your community members. How many lifeguards is this thing going to take? It is known, both locally and nationally, that it can be a struggle to hire lifeguards. When done right, you can do it, and this community can do it. So at any given time when that swimming pool is open, you'll need 2 to 6 lifeguards. You may be able to go down to 1 depending on how you operate it, but we're going with 2 to 6 for now. So how many lifeguards would you need to hire on an ongoing basis, or how many would you need on staff to operate the swimming pool? Somewhere between 30 and 48. If you can hire 50, you're probably going to. If you hire 30, you can make it happen. But 30 to 48 is the projected total hire for lifeguards. That's it. That's 14, 15 months of download.
Real quick, Lauren, do you want to explain to the Board of Aldermen why so many, because of part-time lifeguards?
Oh, yeah. So when thinking about lifeguards, the first place I like to start is you're going to have to follow child labor laws. And oftentimes, in order to hire enough lifeguards, you will likely start hiring at the age of 15. At the age of 15, they come with a lot of restriction. On a school day, I think they can only work 3 hours a day. If it's a weekend or summertime, they can work 8 hours. So there's some child labor law to keep in mind. In addition to that, teenagers these days, they're fairly busy. You may have lifeguards who can work 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week. You may have some who can work 20, 30 hours a week. But what we have found is you want to plan that lifeguards really won't be working more than 10 hours a week. And so because of that, when you think about the swimming pool being open Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. minus those few hours, we're going to have a good roster of folks to pull in. And they may not be able to work every day, right? We know that between sports and extracurricular activities and all the things that teenagers do these days, internships, we're going to have a roster and keep people moving through, right? So you may only see a lifeguard one time a week, but if you can hire them and they're willing to work, you're probably going to do so. At least that's what we've been seeing. So that's why that number is so high, is we need to accommodate schedules that are ever in flux and that may be a little less than what you would prefer, or maybe what your kids worked, or even what I worked when I was growing up. So that's why that number is so high.
Great. Before I open up for questions, the rest of what I do have a quick question, Lauren. So when we're looking at the revenue piece, membership fees specifically, I'm glad that we were able to capture some good information and hear from our residents. It's our Kearney taxpayers that are going to have to make this decision, and we'll pay for it one way or another. But I do think it's important to hit on and think about, so we're expecting roughly 40% of our revenue to come from non-residents. Do we know how that the non-resident consumer piece, how those fees, whether it's youth to family, all combined, compare to the same costs for like Liberty, Excelsior, Glasso, North Kansas City? I don't care that it's not I don't care that it's apples or oranges on their revenue and how they pay for it, right? The consumer is going to care about what it costs. And if we're needing to rely on 40% of our revenue to come from that group, I would just like to kind of know where we stack up.
Sure.
To our competitors there.
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had the answer for you in this moment on that, but it's something we can follow up on. So that's a great question that I would defer back to Ballard King. They're the ones who did this projection, so I'd like to chat with them about that and see what feedback they can provide on that, if that's acceptable.
All right.
Okay.
Great. Any questions from the board, from Lauren or staff?
I have one question. As we're talking about revenue streams, one of the things, my kids swam competitively for years, and one of the things that we spent a lot of money at was at the concession stand. And I didn't see any of that kind of facility here. Was there any concession made for concession stand?
That's a great question. Actually, there is. Can you go back to ground floor model? So there was some thought about concessions. Now, within this building, we did not build concessions out. We don't, again, in a facility like this, we don't always see a separate concession stand. We could include it. I'm actually gonna approach this over here just to make it easy. We did include space to add concessions in the future, because we know that outdoor aquatics, I'll try to get to the mic. Outdoor aquatics comes with heavy concession use. We don't see heavy concession use in a facility like this. It doesn't mean you can't have concessions. So again, we can either add it in, or the thinking was, what if we start off with pre-packaged type items, protein bars, water, whatever have you. You could sell that from the front desk versus having to build out a full concession stand.
Maybe a case by case basis when, for. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, so, but I did want to point out that in this, you see this gray box right here? There's actually two sections within that gray box. One is a storage unit for the gymnasium, right? Basketballs, volleyballs, toys, what have you. But just adjacent to that would be what could be a future concession stand. And in that case, whenever you built that outdoor, if you were to ever build the outdoor aquatic center, we would put concessions there, and now you would have shared concessions between the rec center, indoor pool, and the outdoor outdoor swimming pool. We don't want to duplicate space whenever possible. It's expensive to build, it's expensive to operate, so that's why we put it there. Again, if you'd like to see concessions, we certainly could, we just didn't include it in this plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board to Lauren or staff?
She answered my question.
Perfect.
I was trying to figure out what that space was for, so.
Seeing no other questions, if we could read the proposed ordinance for ballot language, first reading by title only, please.
An ordinance calling an election in the city of Kearney, Missouri.
I make a motion to approve the first read.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Second reading by title only, please.
An ordinance calling an election in the city of Kearney, Missouri. We should talk about it.
Move to approve on second reading.
I'll second that.
What? 1 second, what's that?
We should probably, I just want to point out for everybody listening that there are two ballot questions. The first one is asking voters to approve $28 million of general obligation bonds. And the second question is asking voters to approve a 1/2 cent park sales tax. In order for this project to become a reality, both questions would need to be approved by voters.
Correct.
It would not work with just one of them.
I think the board understands that.
Yep.
All right, so we had the second motion. It was first by Alderman Lehman, seconded by Alderman Spencer. A roll call vote, please.
Alderman Holt,
Aye.
Alderman Lehman,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Barker.
Aye.
Votes unanimous. Ordinance passes on second reading unanimously. We have no resolutions this evening. We do have next items for review and presentation. Our police chief, Chief O'Leary, is here this evening for an update on the flock camera system. At my request. Chief, you have the floor?
Yeah, board. They asked to give kind of an update on the flock camera system. We purchased a 14 camera system. 12 of the cameras are active and working now. The 2 that haven't been installed are kind of being held back for 19th Street I-35 interchange, and we hope to have it in place soon. In the last 30 days, this information is based off December the 2nd. In the last 30 days, we've captured 907,769 license plate images. With the 900,769 number in mind, 116,272 were unique, which means they just hit 1 day out of the 30 days, which would account for the I-35 travelers, around the 92 highway corridor. I think in the last 30 days, we had 81 hits. The hits include stolen autos, stolen license plates, and warrants. Some of the successes from the flock camera system at this point, the hit and run accident, we cleared a hit and run accident, cleared several stealing cases, 2 stolen autos, narcotics arrest with prosecution. We assisted the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department in a silver alert. They broadcasted over the news a missing party out of the city. I think a resident of Kearney thought they'd seen him at the truck stop. We utilized their camera system. Indeed, he was at the truck stop. We was able to give Kansas City a timeline and a direction. He was located safely sometime later. That's all I have.
Great. Yeah, I appreciate that update. I was just curious on how effective it was, so I asked our administrator for that report. So Sounds like it is working as intended, and I'm still a firm believer in giving you guys that tool, so glad the board approved that. Thanks, Chief. Next item, Mayor's Communications. I have a couple items to mention this evening. First, congratulations to the Kearney Bulldogs. I hope that we're all aware that we almost beat the state record for most points scored in a state game, but a beautiful 68-28 victory over Hillsborough this last Saturday in Columbia. Hope to see everybody downtown this Saturday. Kearney's Magical Downtown Night starts at 6 p.m. Lighted parade, a lot of good festivities. The board will be riding with the street department this year, which I've got to get an item to you this evening, Donnie, for the float. 6 p.m. Hope to see everybody down here. Mr. Scholl, once again, will be shooting off a fabulous fireworks show after the festivities. Back in August, the board approved a change order for the interchange project on the west side of the highway at Nation Road and 144th Street. Clay County had a road that was washed out south of our project. Our project caused it to where if we didn't approve the change order, there's going to be some county residents that did not have access to their home. I asked Sheila at that meeting, if you remember, to start communicating with Clay County, asking them if they would be so kind to help pay for that. Communication was a little slower than I desired, so I actually went to the commission meeting last week and presented to the commission, and the commission unanimously approved my request of reimbursing us for halves, roughly $19,000 of that. So that'll help us pay for other change orders. So I'm pleased to pass that along to the board, and appreciate all the commissioners unanimously approving my request on behalf of the city. Last item under Mayor's Communications is to remind everybody of the Keystone Awards, December 14th. I unfortunately will not be able to make it this year, but it's going to be a wonderful event for the city. We're going to have 3 winners for the Keystone Awards itself, and then 3 winners for special recognition. So it'll be a great day for Kearney, and a nice opportunity to celebrate some really important investments and happenings in our community. That concludes my mayor's report. We'll move on to the city administrator's report.
Filing for candidates at the annual city election begins tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and it ends on December 26th at 5 p.m. And the other thing I have is our next regular board meeting will be on Wednesday, December 20th. It cannot be on Monday because of court being held that night due to the holidays. And I don't know, just Alderman Lehman had asked, why are we doing this? And I reminded him that we talked about this almost a year ago at the very end of December. And the board chose to go ahead and have that second meeting in December. And so we can have it on Wednesday. That's all I have.
All right. We'll move on to Alderman discussion. Alderman Barger.
I just want to add my congratulations to the football team and also to see everybody on Saturday night.
Alderman Spencer.
The same, a lot going on in our community. A lot happened this past Saturday, the 2nd. Lots of wonderful things then. And this coming Saturday will be a lot of wonderful things in our community. So get out there and take advantage of all these opportunities.
Alderman Lehman.
Obviously this Saturday was a highlight. I was actually in Oklahoma visiting my son, who graduated from Kearney and who was on the 2009 state championship team. And when I made the mistake of telling him that they were playing and that it could be viewed on the TV, Dad had to buy the subscription to watch it from Oklahoma. And I'm not sure, it was at least 3 times that we woke up my four-month-old granddaughter while she was asleep. So it was fun seeing that and following it on Facebook. Looking forward to this Saturday with a lighted parade. I've already purchased a costume, so I'll be all festive for this weekend. The other thing I wanted to mention is I work with several people that actually live in Kearney. And after the new interchange opened, every one of them have been upstairs to my office and have just absolutely glowing comments about the new interchange. They are just ecstatic that everything's open. My HR manager says we've cut 10 minutes off of her commute time, and she's forever grateful for that. So it's a very, very nice interchange, and surprisingly, it's very highly used, especially in the morning. A lot more vehicles entering the interstate there than what I expected. So exciting times in the city of Kearney. So.
Well, I know it's too late, but you could have listened to the game for free from a wonderful radio station and news station, 102.7 KPGZ.
I tried.
Fail?
Yeah, well, my son's internet was not the best.
Oh, okay.
And there was a lag.
I listened from out of town. My brother listened from Chicago. So, job well done. Yes.
Yeah, we first tried the radio and there was such a lag. It's like, okay, I'm gonna have to buy the thing from Misha. So.
Yep. Alderman Holt.
I just want to say how cool it is to live in this town when something like this happens. You know, when Ed Haney was alive, Ed took pictures of the championship team coming into town. And then the pictures that we had of this team coming into town was very reminiscent of that. And then what was really cool, my wife and I, we live over by the high school, and everybody had gotten home, and all of a sudden we heard some fireworks. And we thought, wow, this is kind of cool. We thought maybe they're shooting them off at the stadium, and I don't know, maybe they were, who knows. But we go out on our front porch, and it wasn't just us, it was our neighbors too. They were out there, and every time a firework would go off, you would hear these kids. It was so awesome. These teenagers screaming and hollering in excitement for their kids, for the memories that they are building with this win was so incredible. And it was so cool that every time the fireworks went off, our neighbors would cheer too. It was like a neat town experience that is really, it's what makes Kearney special. And it was really neat to see that. You know, you think of school spirit of just being the high school kids, and it's not. The school spirit is in the whole town of Kearney, and it's really cool. And thanks to the radio station and for Mike and Jim for doing a fantastic job all year long. I'm telling you guys, we are so blessed. There are a lot of people that call football games, high school football games, that are not that good. And Jim and Mike do such a fantastic job. You listen on the radio and it makes you feel like you're sitting right there in the seat. These guys are awesome. And if you ever get a chance to see them out on the street, thank them for what they do, because they're as much of the Bulldog spirit as the players are. I'm telling you, it's really cool. We have our own kind of Mitch Holtis in our midst. So I just want to share how exciting it was to win a state championship, but not only with the kids, but with everybody in town. It was really, really cool this year.
Great. But we do have an executive session notice up this evening, a closed session per 610.021 subsection 13, individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to an employee or applicants for employment. And our meeting will be adjourned once we complete our executive session. So that does conclude our open session, public session of the meeting. If we could consider a motion to go into executive session at 7:49 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Lehman. Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Barker. Aye. Alderman Holt.
Aye.
Votes unanimous. We will enter executive session. Everybody have a good evening. Thank you for being here.